Okay, friends, but what you're going to need is, you're going to need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and I have all-purpose and whole wheat mix, so I sifted some of the bran out. And you're going to need 1 cup of bread flour. Now, I accidentally bought self-rising cake and pastry flour, so God only knows what that's going to do. And you want 1/2 cup of flour for our butter block, because the puff pastry I'm going to make different than I did in my sausage roll video. I'm going to try something new. So you're going to need 1/2 pound of butter, and you're going to need some ice water. So let me get a knife, and first off the block, we're going to start our, let's hope the cowboy's up to this. I'm hoping Santa Claus will bring me a KitchenAid next year. Let's get our 1 cup of flour in there, self-rising flour, and our 1 cup of all-purpose whole wheat mix that I sifted. Now I'm leaving this out because I'm going to try something new with the butter. Now, if at any time this gets too thick, I'm going to try. I have not found the other one of these, so I think it may be just a dough hook all by itself. I don't know. So let's get the cowboy going nice and slow. I don't know if this cowboy knows slow. Now, I don't know how much ice water you're going to need, but I've got about 1.5 cups here, maybe just over a cup. And we're just going to start, and I have ice in here because the water has to be cold. And you know what I forgot? It's got to have salt in it. Now, because my butter is salted and there's salt in the cake and pastry flour, I'm only going to put in about 1/2 teaspoon, but it actually calls for 1 1/3 teaspoons. I'm going to give me a spatula, son. And we're just going to slowly incorporate this until it becomes a nice dough ball. Until he brings the spatula. Oh, there's the cowboy wanting to gallop again. And he's on his slowest speed. Thank you, son. Now, like I said, this is different. Stop complaining. This is different from, let's see, maybe we need the dough hook now. Oh no, that's perfect. It's coming away from the sides of the bowl, and that's what you want. Maybe, let's try just a little bit more water because there's some flour in the bottom. Whoa, cowboy. There we go. All right. That works perfectly because he came away from the sides of the bowl. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to put him in a bowl, is we're going to let it rest while we make what is known as a butter block. Now, if you remember, I made the dough and then I just put the butter straight into it, but I've since learned a new method for dealing with the butter. Now, the only reason you see me using this is because A, I'm going to need it, and B, it's BPA free. So, now comes into play is the other 1/2 cup of flour. We're going to take our 1/2 pound of butter. It is not cold, but it's not overly soft either. You want it to be workable, but not warm and really soft. And we're going to cut this into 1-inch cubes. And what we're making essentially is called a butter block. And that's the block of butter that we're going to wrap the dough around, if you remember from my sausage roll video. But we're adding a little bit of flour to it to make it easier to work. Apparently this is what's going to happen. Now, we're not actually making the beef Wellington until tomorrow, but the puff pastry takes quite some time. You know, you have to let it rest for 1/2 hour in between each fold, and it's got to be folded 4 times. So, and I'm going to do a new way of folding it too. Oh my goodness, I did not put that flour in there, did I? Okay, we're going to add our 1/2 cup of flour. We're going to put the cowboy back to work on low as he will go. And we basically just want to mix the flour and the butter together until it forms a nice bit of block of butter. It's only got a wee bit of flour in it, just a 1/2 cup. Thank you, son. And a rolling pin out of the bottom drawer. So what we're going to do with the butter block is we're going to roll it between 2 pieces of parchment. Thank you, son. And then chill it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Cowboy. And now I'm just going to take it out. All right. Okay. Now we're just going to kind of roll this in that flour a little bit, just to kind of coat it. Because it's really just butter with a wee tiny bit of flour in it, and you don't want it to be too buttery. This is why it's imperative to use cold water when you're making your dough. Here comes my son with the firewood, and he's going to do the farm chores, I'm thinking. All right, so what we have here is our butter block. And we kind of want it rectangular in shape. We're going to dust a little bit more flour on top. We're going to put the other piece of parchment on there. And we're just kind of gently going to roll it a little bit into a roughly rectangular shape. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to put this in the fridge. All right, we'll be back when this is chilled and I roll out the other dough. Now, like I said, I'm doing this differently than I did with my sausage rolls. We're going to take some flour here. We're going to dust the table, and I'm using my cloth. You know why I use my cloth. I'm not wearing my apron. It was too hot. All right. Let's put our basic dough, and it's got a nice elasticity to it. And let's just roll it out. We want to kind of roll it in a nice rectangular shape, as rectangular as possible. And we're going to do not the 3-fold pocketbook roll fold for a change. We are going to do a 4-fold method as possible, because we're going to fold our butter up into it. Now here's our butter block, and we're just going to press this into place, and I'm hoping this will work. And we're going to stretch this over, and we're going to stretch this over again without trying to break. And we're going to flip this over here, and we're just going to kind of rock the butter into place. The butter's quite hard. And then we just kind of want to roll it. You don't want to roll it too hard at first, because the butter itself is hard. This is actually much easier than the way I did it for the sausage rolls. We did a pocketbook fold. We folded it in 3. We're going to fold this in 4. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to bring that up like that. We want this to be as rectangular as possible. So let's just flatten that out a little bit. And we're going to do that. See now? And then we're going to fold it one more time. And you want to leave a little gap between this fold and this fold for one simple reason, is you don't want a lump there when you do this. Now if you look, we have a 4-fold. We have 4 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do this again, because the butter is still technically quite cold. Okay, now what we're going to do is tuck that end in a little bit. Now this is getting quite warm, and we don't want it to get warm, so we're going to bring this in like this, leaving a nice, like a finger's width gap there, and we're going to fold it again. Now we're going to wrap it in parchment, and we are going to put it in the fridge for a minimum of 30 minutes. And this is another problem I had with my last pastry, although it turned out beautiful, didn't it, dear? My last set of sausage rolls. But is I forgot to wrap it in between folds, and it will get dry. We want it to lay flat, so we're going to put it in the fridge just like that, and we'll be back in a half an hour. We're coming back with roll number 2. Now we're going to do this 4 times, and then I'm hoping before I go to bed tonight to have this all rolled up, the meat rolled up in the puff pastry and ready for roasting tomorrow. This is chilled for 30 minutes and it's already much softer than the original recipe I used to use is. So let's flour the rolling pin and get this rolling. And we are going to once again, let's square this up. And we're going to do the quadruple fold, which is a quarter of the way in, a quarter of the way in, leaving a 1 finger gap at least. And then we're going to fold it in half again, showing that once again we have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. All right. Fold number 2 is complete. I'm back in the fridge. It goes for another half an hour. All right, let's get on to roll number 3. Now remember, we've got to do this 4 times. And I really hope yeah, that's nice and cool. You just don't want it warm. You don't want to melt that butter. You want it malleable. You want it to be, you know, but you really don't want to melt it. This whole beef Wellington itself is going to cost about $25 to make. If you went to buy it in a restaurant, well, it probably would be a whole lot more than that. Now I'm going to fold this. If you notice it's going long one time and then wide the next, that's because it's the way I'm rolling it. The 4th and final roll, this is roll number 3. There's my 3 dots. The 4th and final roll will be the one that we wrap. Okay? Let's get this back in the fridge and we'll be back for the 4th and final roll in a half an hour.